The last group was 11 people. A grandmother from Oaxaca, 2 brothers from Guatemala, 18 and 22 years old, a young woman carrying a toddler on her back who hadn't stopped crying in 6 hours, a man from Honduras who told you before you crossed that he had a job offer waiting in Houston, a real one, with a real company, and a real start date of Monday morning. You moved all 11 of them across 23 miles of Sonoran Desert in the middle of July. Temperature, 114 degrees Fahrenheit. You gave them each 2 liters of water. It wasn't enough. You've been doing this for 9 years. You've moved an estimated 340 people across that desert. Some of them made it to their families in Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas, New York. Some of them didn't. You know the difference between those 2 groups, and the difference has nothing to do with the desert. It has everything to do with who paid and how much. This is the job nobody applies for, and the one nobody knows how to quit. Level 1. How you became this. Let me take you back to where this story started. You're 29 years old, born in Nogales, the Mexican side. Your father crossed in 1987 when he was 23, came back, crossed again in 1991, came back again. Third time, 1994, he made it to Tucson, got work at a meatpacking plant, sent money home every 2 weeks for 11 years until a forklift accident took 3 fingers and his job on the same Tuesday morning. You grew up watching your mother cash those wire transfers at a place on Calle Obregon that charged 11% to give you your own money. By the time you were 22, you knew 2 things. The people who wanted to cross couldn't afford the $8,000 a cartel-affiliated Coyote charged, and you knew the desert better than almost anyone on either side of that fence. The first group you moved wasn't for money. It was your cousin, her husband, their 3 kids. They needed to get to her sister in Phoenix. They had $600 between them, not $8,000. Nobody legitimate would touch them. You crossed them in 11 hours. Flat terrain. Pre-dawn temperatures. You knew every water cache location for 30 miles. You knew which border patrol shift patterns had gaps on Tuesday nights. You got them to a pickup spot outside of Sasabe. Her sister drove them to Phoenix. Her husband has worked at the same landscaping company for 8 years now. His oldest daughter graduated from ASU last spring. That crossing cost you nothing and gave you everything, the knowledge that you could do something nobody else in your town could do. Word spreads fast in a small community. 6 months later, a man knocked on your door and offered you $1,200 to move his brother's family. You said yes. That was the yes that changed your life. And you would spend the next 9 years trying to decide every single crossing whether the man you became after that yes was someone you could still recognize in the mirror. Level 2. What the job actually is. Here's what nobody tells you about being a coyote. The independent kind, not the cartel kind. There are 2 types. The difference is everything. The cartel kind moves people the same way they move product, as cargo, packed into trailer trucks, locked in stash houses for days without food, charge debts that follow families for years. The people are a commodity. The crossing fee isn't a service charge, it's leverage. You are not that kind. What you are is a guide, a human GPS with 9 years of terrain knowledge, weather pattern, memory, and a network of safe contacts on the American side who will move people to their destinations without asking questions. Your clients aren't criminals. They're a 47-year-old woman who cleaned hotel rooms in Cancun for 22 years and wants to spend whatever time she has left near her grandchildren in Denver. They're a 19-year-old man who taught himself English from YouTube videos and has a cousin in Atlanta who promised him a restaurant job if he can just get there. They're people who couldn't get a visa not because they're dangerous, but because the system that issues visas isn't designed for people who look like them and come from places like theirs. You charge $2,500 per person, less than the cartels, more than free. That $2,500 covers your supplies, water, emergency blankets, medical kit. It covers the contact fee on the American side. It covers the risk you carry in your own body, because if you get caught, you're looking at federal charges, 5 to 10 years, and deportation back to a country that hasn't been home since you were a child. The math works out to roughly $31 an hour when you factor in preparation time, crossing time, and the 2 weeks of anxiety attacks that follow every single trip. You've been offered cartel affiliation 4 times. You've said no 4 times. The 5th time, they didn't ask. They told you that you were crossing through their corridor and the tax was $500 per head or you'd be crossing nothing ever again. You paid the tax because the alternative, the thing they implied without saying, was worse than $500. And that's the moment you understood something about this life that nobody on the outside ever talks about. There is no independent anymore. There is only how much of yourself you're willing to sell to keep doing the work you started for the right reasons. Level 3. The crossing. Let me tell you what a crossing actually feels like from your side. You meet the group the night before. Sometimes 4 people, sometimes 14. You've learned never to accept more than 12 beyond that. The group moves too slow, too loud, too visible. You look at their shoes first. Always the shoes. You can tell everything about how prepared someone is by their shoes. Sandals mean they don't understand what they're walking into. Good hiking boots mean someone helped them prepare. You spend 2 hours going over the route. You explain the heat. You explain what dehydration feels like before it kills you. You explain that if someone falls behind, the group stops, but only for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you leave a GPS marker and keep moving, because stopping a group of 12 people in open desert for longer than 10 minutes is how everyone dies, not just one person. You've left 3 people behind in 9 years. One of them made it Border Patrol, found him. He got medical care, got processed, got deported. His family tried again 6 months later with a different coyote. You don't know what happened after that. The other 2 you don't talk about. The crossing itself is 5 to 8 hours of silence, single-file movement, and the kind of focused attention that makes time disappear. You're watching the terrain, watching the sky, watching your group. You're doing math constantly. Water supply versus distance, versus temperature, versus the physical condition of 12 strangers you met 18 hours ago. When you reach the pickup zone and see the headlights of the contact vehicle, 2 flashes, pause, 1 flash, something in your chest releases that you didn't even know you were holding. You watch them get in. You watch the vehicle pull away. You don't exchange names. You don't say goodbye. The grandmother from Oaxaca reaches back through the window and grabs your hand for 3 seconds before the car moves. You never see any of them again. You walk back alone. And here is the part that nobody on either side of this debate ever wants to sit with. You are breaking the law. You know it. You've known it since the first crossing. But you also know this, in 9 years and 340 people, not one of them was moving towards something worse than what they were leaving. Level 4. The truth. You're 38 years old now. Your father is 74. Lives in a casita outside Nogales that you bought for him 3 years ago with crossing money. He doesn't ask where it came from. You don't tell him. You've been stopped twice by Border Patrol, twice as a pedestrian. Both times released. Your American birth certificate is your one shield. You were born on the right side of that line by 47 miles. A geographic accident that has protected you from the consequences of everything you've done. The 340 people you moved, most of them had no such accident. They were born on the wrong side of a line drawn in 1848 by people who are 176 years dead, in a negotiation that had nothing to do with the families who have been crossing that same desert since before the border existed. You're not asking anyone to agree with what you do. You stopped asking for that a long time ago. What you are asking, the thing you think about every single time you walk back alone across that desert at 4 a.m., is a simpler question. If the grandmother from Oaxaca was your grandmother, if the 19-year-old with the YouTube English was your son, if the woman with the toddler on her back was your sister, would you want someone like you to exist? Someone who knows the terrain. Someone who charges less than the people who don't care if they live. Someone who, at the very least, is trying not to be the reason another family gets a phone call. You don't know if that makes you a good person. You don't think it does. But you know what you're doing next Tuesday. Same desert, same route. New group, 2 flashes. Pause, 1 flash. And then you walk them home to a home you've never seen. In a country that is and isn't yours. And you walk back alone. Like you always do.